Hey everyone, welcome back to the Be a Better You podcast. I'm your host, Allison K. Dagny. So today I'm coming to you with an episode that I never intended on talking about because at the time it didn't really feel like it fit. And this has to do with social media. This has to do with online trolls and haters and things like that. But I definitely see this correlation between having somebody come at you and attack you to what survivors go through all of the time with smear campaigns and people talking bad about you, people lying about you, criticizing you, and things like that. So I'm going to tell you a story that I feel like is relevant. So I'm working on growing my business. I'm working on manifesting a lot more expansion and growth. And one of the exercises that I'm doing in this is I'm identifying the things that I feel like I could struggle with if I had that level of expansion and that level of growth. And one of the things that I had on the list to go through was negative comments, haters, smear campaigns, lies, things like that. And because of the work that I've done with my subconscious mind, I didn't really feel a lot of fear about this. And I remember I was on a walk and I was talking to my ChatGPT and asking it to ask me questions and help me process. And I was like, I don't really feel a lot of fear around this. I just don't, I don't care what other people think. Like I've had to come really far and I have done a lot of work to get there, but I really don't care. So I let that go and then I went on to the next thing on my list the next day and I kept working through things. Well, about 2 days later, I logged onto my social media on Instagram and somebody had made some comments under one of my posts and I read them and I didn't really understand them. I was kind of confused by it and I thought, okay, maybe this person just doesn't know how to communicate well or whatever. And I just like made a comment back like, yeah, because I think the first comment had something to do with talking about abuse and like, yeah, we should be, shoving it down people's throats and talking about abuse all the time. And it was kind of passive aggressive. And I thought that's kind of weird. But it didn't like faze me. So then I kept getting more and more comments from the same person. Well, just for context, this person, it had a female name, but they didn't have any like posts or anything like that. So and there was just like kind of a generic image. Well, I think I'm gonna call this person a troll because they just came onto my post and they were just making really nasty comments underneath of it about abuse-togram and calling it like that phrase because people talk about abuse online. And so I found it to be really strange, but the person started to get more and more aggressive in their responses to me and saying that I was harming people and different things like that. So it was interesting that happened 2 days after I just worked through this thing and thought, I'm not affected by this. Now, what happened was I didn't get a physical response to this person's comments. I truly didn't feel anything. But years ago, this would have wrecked me. Years ago, prior to me doing this work, I would have been questioning myself. I would have thought maybe I should delete this. I would have thought, oh, I need to explain myself to this person. I want people to like me and maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I am hurting people. And like I didn't have that. And that's what it's important for you to know, that because of the deep work I've done, it did not impact me that way. Okay. Because that's what emotional abuse trains you to do. It trains you to question yourself. It trains you to be like, oh, what did I do? Is that my fault? Did I mess something up? Right. When somebody comes at you with their opinion, doesn't automatically mean you've done something wrong. Okay. It also trains you to believe that a disagreement is danger or is bad, okay? And these are things I had to work through. You may also start to believe that approval means safety. If somebody approves of you, then that's a good thing or that's safe. But that's not always the case either. People are allowed to disapprove of you or disagree with you. So the problem that I had with this person was just the constant picking and the constant coming back, and they were commenting with other people who were also kind of supporting me, and it was just really like kind of toxic. So I then suggested that this person hop on a call with me, like meet me face to face, right? Like I have no problems meeting anybody face to face. Schedule a call. You want to talk about it? Tell me. And it was interesting because this person trying to provoke, continually commenting about like abuse, was also behaving in an abusive way, right? So I'm immediately clocking this. I'm like, okay, this is somebody who, in my mind, what I'm thinking is this is probably somebody who is an abuser, who does abuse people, and that's exactly what's happening here. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to engage with this person anymore. I'm not going to continue to do this. But the important part I want you to know, the thing that was happening within me, is that I wasn't having a bodily reaction or a panic or feeling this urge to convince or explain to this random person who just didn't agree with me. And, you know, if somebody really wants to talk about it, I'm open to that. Just schedule a call with me. You can talk to me. So I'm not going to sit here and hide or anything like that. And I'm also not trying to win, but if you want a place for an actual conversation, then let's do that. But a lot of times these trolls, they just want to get a reaction out of you. They just want to pick at you. They just want to provoke. Meanwhile, which I don't know how many of you know this, but the more that you comment on those kinds of posts, the more you're going to see it in your feed. So the funny part about this was that this troll was actually going to see more quote unquote abuse-tagram in their social media feed because of commenting and spending time on accounts like mine. And then it also helped me, the interaction too, which is why I continued to engage for as long as that I did, because I know that that kind of engagement gets my posts or my reels more visibility. So the more comments that are happening and the back and forth and the likes and all of that, Instagram starts saying, oh, there's a lot of activity here. We should show it to more people. So it was starting to get a lot more traction because of that. So that was good. That was actually a good thing. And so that was why I allowed it to go for as long as I did. I did end up blocking because it was just kind of like it had run its course, and I didn't feel the need to allow that kind of vitriol to stay there on my page. So I just ended up blocking that person after like a day of that engagement. But here's the bigger lesson here, okay? Because this person was also saying that I was like bowing to the advertising overlords. Okay, so this is the weird part of this. And I thought, what is this about? So just maybe 2 weeks prior to this person coming onto my page, I had just started learning about Google Ads. And when you're doing Google Ads, you are experimenting. And so sometimes there are keywords that are going out that Google is experimenting with. So I don't really know who's going to be seeing my ads. So it's very possible that this person was a man hiding behind a female avatar, or this was somebody who was searching for free support or something and then saw my ad and then got triggered because I, charge for services and products that I have. I do have free stuff too, but maybe that bothered them for whatever reason. So this is why I'm bringing this up, because the beliefs that one person has, like that paying for ads is manipulative or wrong or bad, right? While another person believes that paying for ads is how a woman who's sitting on her bathroom floor crying at 2:00 in the morning finally finds help when she's searching on her phone, right? So it's like what one person believes isn't necessarily the truth. And unless we shift our perspectives about things, then we can stay in these muddled places like this particular quote unquote troll was, angry or if you are listening to this and you're nodding along like, yep, this is me, and you're ready to actually shift this and not just keep managing and coping, I invite you to schedule a free call from the link in the show notes. On that call, we're going to look at where you're at right now, where you want to be emotionally, and start uncovering what is actually in the way. And then I'm going to give you my recommendations and point you in the right direction if any of my programs might feel like a fit. And if it's aligned, we'll move forward. If not, you still leave with some clarity. All right, now let's get back to the episode. Seething and believing that what I was doing was somehow wrong. It's this, the same thing, like paying for ads is quote unquote bad or manipulative, or paying for ads is actually helping people, right? It's the same action, but it's a totally different belief that's attached to it. Because our lives are built on perspective, right? If I believe that ads are evil, I will never advertise. And if I never advertise, then the woman who really needs me or really needs what I teach cannot find me. So which belief actually serves humanity better? And I know my answer, because if nobody knows I exist, how am I going to help? I can't. I can't help if nobody knows that I exist. So this episode, like I said, I did not plan on this, but I thought, you know what? This is actually really powerful, because I feel like that there were a couple elements here about this troll. This is so helpful to me. I'm actually really grateful that this troll came onto my page, because it really did help me connect a couple of things. That, don't talk about abuse. The more you talk about abuse, the people just are like wallowing in these, accounts about Abusestagram, right? But hello, I'm never going to stop talking about abuse. Why would I? I don't want people to feel alone. So why would I be like, oh, now let's be quiet. Let's not talk about it. Abuse is uncomfortable. That's not me. Never going to be. Okay. Sorry. Not going to do that. So abuse doesn't end just because we stop talking about it or we ignore it, right? That's the old way. Let's just shove it under the rug. Let's not talk about it. Absolutely freaking not. So maybe you've been told, oh, don't talk about it, or you're telling your story too much, or blah, blah, blah. Now, I will say, on the flip side, different perspectives, right? Because that's what I do. The more you sit in the trauma and the more you're like, oh, my life is horrible and everything's so bad and, this and that happened to me, right? There's a place and time for that, but there's also a place and time for healing. And the more we kind of wallow in all of that swampy, dark sadness, the harder it is to move out of it, right? But I think there's a difference between that and like giving people information and talking about healing and how you can move forward, right? And that's where I focus. So people who are uncomfortable with talking about abuse, that's on them. That's uncomfortable for them, and that's why they don't want us to talk about it. But abuse survives in silence. Okay, the less we bring it to the light, the more it thrives. And I just will not ever stop talking about it, because to me it's so important that people feel seen, heard, understood, and validated. Because I know once I got that, it felt like a weight was lifted off of my shoulders. And that this doesn't have anything to do with just being like obsessed with abuse or obsessed with recovery or healing or anything like that. It's because it needs to be brought into the light. If it's in the darkness, it's just going to keep festering. So the more we talk about it, the more people can heal. So for me, I think one of the biggest shifts in healing is that you have to stop measuring yourself by other people's reactions, okay? Because somebody can misunderstand you, but still know who you are at the core. Someone can still criticize you, but also know what you're building or what your goals are. Someone can dislike what you're doing, and you don't have to abandon your purpose to earn their approval. And this is exactly what recovering from abuse looks like. It becomes clearer because what you're doing is you're staying true to yourself. So if somebody is attacking you and saying, you shouldn't be doing this or you shouldn't be doing that or whatever, right? But you're standing solid in your truth and that you know that this is the right thing to do or the right thing for you, right? That's when you reinforce confidence within yourself, you reinforce steadiness, you reinforce capability, resilience, a lot of these things, right? It's when we shake and we're unsteady and we waver and we wobble just because somebody else doesn't agree. Somebody else comes at you and says, oh, you're harming people. Oh, you keep posting about abuse. Oh, you're like that person did to me. I was not movable. I'm like, no. Like, you're not going to tell me that this is wrong. It isn't. And you're not going to tell me that running ads is a bad thing, because how are people going to find me if I don't? Right? I've even had people accuse me of, I'm not sure exactly how it was phrased, but like being predatory because I charge for my services. And to me, that's kind of like saying, is that predatory for a knee surgeon to charge for knee surgery? No. Like, people don't say it's predatory for therapists to support people with their mental health. Why is it predatory for me to do that, to help people? Because I get glowing reviews and people say I've changed their lives. So that's not predatory. That's me sharing my skills with other people in exchange for something else. Because I have to support my family. I have to live as well. So steadiness, sticking your flag in the ground and saying, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I stand for, right? That's leadership. And I'm not going to like pretend that I was always like this. I wasn't. I had to work at it. I had to shift my thinking. I had to reprogram my brain. That is why I am this way today. That is why I cannot be moved when it comes to these things. Like, somebody try to stop me, please, because you're going to learn, because it's never going to happen. I'm never going to stop talking about abuse. I'm never going to stop writing books. I'm never going to stop writing blog posts. I'm never going to stop my podcast. I mean, until like I literally can't anymore, right? But like, I'm not just going to stop just because somebody else doesn't like it. That's my point. Okay? So the troll who thought that they were either going to convince me or discourage me or hate on me or whatever, right? What they did truly was just give me evidence that my message is reaching beyond the people who already agree with me, that I already am expanding into the areas that I haven't been before. Evidence that growth comes with visibility, and that's scary for a lot of people. Evidence that fears that I'd written down during that manifestation work and all of that were no longer fears that I needed to protect myself from. Here's the thing that I think is really, really important, that being confident doesn't mean you're not going to be criticized. Okay? Confidence is when you know that criticism doesn't get to decide who you are or your direction in life. So no, again, I'm not going to stop talking about emotional abuse. I'm not going to stop creating my podcast or making videos or reels or anything like that. And yes, I will keep running ads because somebody out there thinks she's losing her mind, thinks she's going crazy, doesn't know what to do, doesn't know where to turn. And if she finds me because of that, that's not manipulation. It was a pathway or a bridge or a way out. Like, I needed that. I remember searching online. I remember Googling and searching like for help. So why is that wrong? It isn't. And I want you to think about this too. Who is the troll in your life? Because for you, it might not be somebody on Instagram. It might not be somebody that you don't know, right? It might be your ex who is still saying things like, oh, you're never going to make it. It might be a parent who's laughing at your dreams, or a friend or family member. It might be your own voice, your own internal voice, just saying these things that you were conditioned to believe over time. So who is that? Who is that troll for you? Who are you wavering for? Who are you wobbling for, right? And where can you put that flag in the sand? Where can you say, no, I'm not going to stop doing this. I'm not going to stop healing. I'm not going to stop talking about it. I'm not going to stop doing any of those things that other people are uncomfortable with. And ask yourself, whose opinion has been determining the size of your life? Okay, I'm sure you can hear the passion in my voice here about this. But as I was thinking about this after it happened, I realized something important. The comments weren't the lesson, right? The engaging, interacting, nasty attacks and stuff. The lesson was that I no longer needed anybody to understand me to keep doing what I know that I'm here to do, what my purpose is. And that's a really wonderful gift of healing, because you stop making your purpose dependent on other people's approval. And last week, I released the episode about the skill nobody ever taught you, disappointing people. So it's interesting that this episode really ties right into that. You could go back and listen to that one. It's episode number 227, right before this one. But somebody can disagree with you, they can misunderstand you, they can criticize you, try to shame you, like that was happening to me, attack your character, like things like that. And none of those things have to be the determining factor of what you do next. They only determine what you do next if you believe that they do. Because you could be like, no. You could just say, I'm not accepting that. Because emotional abuse teaches us to constantly look outside of ourselves for permission, for validation, for reassurance. And it teaches us to question ourselves every single time somebody doesn't approve, or somebody else is disappointed, or somebody else doesn't like it. Recovery is the process of coming back home to yourself. It's learning that you can listen, you can evaluate, you can be open to feedback even, and you can still trust your own judgment, because I'm not always right, okay? And if somebody had come to me and said, you said this and here's why it's wrong, or you wrote this statistic and here's actually the correct statistic, or something like that, I would be open to that and be like, oh, you're right, I was wrong, I should fix that, right? But in a case like this where somebody's just attacking you or criticizing you, doesn't see it the same way as you, right? You can still trust your own judgment. You can evaluate everything and look at it from different angles and still come back to yourself. So I'm not going to stop talking about emotional abuse. I'm not going to stop creating podcasts or writing books or any of the things, or sharing the tools that help me rebuild my life. And I will continue to do these things. I will continue to run ads, because I refuse to believe that reaching the women who desperately need this message is something I should be apologizing for, and I'm not going to. So if paying for an ad means that one more person finally understands she's not crazy, or that she's being emotionally abused, or she finds some support, or leaves that toxic relationship or whatever that might be, or finds some peace after years of suffering, then I'm going to keep on investing in that. That's my money. I can do whatever I want with it. If I want to put ads out in front of people, then I'm going to, right? Who gets to tell me that I shouldn't be doing that? It's the same for you, right? If you're doing investing in your healing, who's to tell you shouldn't be doing that? Who's to telling you that's stupid, or that's a waste of time? Or I don't know, like if you decide you want to go rock climbing because it helps with your mental health, like why should you not do that? No one else is living your life. You are, right? So the truth is, every one of us has trolls. They don't always live on the internet. Sometimes they do, right? Sometimes they'll find you and you haven't blocked them all or whatever, but But sometimes they're an ex, sometimes they're a family member, sometimes they're just a hater, maybe a coworker, a friend, or again, like I said, that voice in your head that keeps repeating all the things that we were made to believe that we have to challenge. So the question isn't whether you're going to face criticism, because you will. You always will. The question is whether you're going to let somebody else's beliefs become the limit for your life. And I am not willing to do that. And I hope after listening to this episode, you're a little less willing to do it too. Thank you for being here with me. I hope you have learned something from my story, from this message, from my actions, from how I move through the world. And if you would like my support, visit my website. The link is in the show notes. A lot of resources and tools out there to support you. Thanks for being here. Talk to you next week.